Welcome to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio, and we are here today with Greg Reid. Greg is coming to us from down under. It's quite early in the morning. We are hitting all time zones today. He's in Australia, I'm in California, and our producers are in New York. That's what I love about being connected so easily. Let's bring Greg in. Hello.
Morning, Debbie. Hi, how are you?
How are you? I'm good.
I'm
I'm
great.
good. Okay, so it's 5 a.m. there. Where are you? I forgot. Where in Sydney? I mean, where in Sydney, of course. Where, that's the center of the world. Where in Australia are you?
I'm in Brisbane, which is above Sydney. It's about an hour, hour and a quarter flight,
Oh,
12 hours driving, if you want to look at it that way. So I'm in Brisbane, it's the capital of Queensland. We've got about 2 million people live here.
wow.
Now one of the fastest growing real estate markets in the country.
Wow, I had no idea. I always think you think Sydney, you think of Melbourne. So to give
Yep.
us, that was really helpful to say it was 12-hour drive. I kind of see, from San Francisco to LA is about a 5, 6 hour drive. So, and that's pretty far of a drive. How far is it a drive from Sydney to Melbourne?
Same distance, basically.
Same.
It's about the same. Same driving time, about an hour, hour and a quarter of flight. So if I was to get
Okay.
on a plane in Brisbane to fly to Melbourne, it's about 2 hours 20, 2 hours 30 minutes flight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm visual, so I have to I have to ask these
Yeah.
questions.
No,
Last week,
yeah.
last week I was interviewing someone in India, and that was super fascinating because I really hadn't
Yeah.
not I
It would
haven't
be.
I have not been there before.
No.
Anyway, let's
No.
properly introduce you. There's so much to talk about. You are so accomplished. You've done so much. So I'm going to introduce you, and then we will get going. Greg Reid transitioned from a 20-year real estate career to fiction writing at 56, proving it's never too late to start anew. Seeking guidance, he joined an online writing community where he learned the importance of support and consistency. Initially hesitant, Greg embraced fiction, leveraging his real estate background to craft vivid descriptions. His early earnings were modest, but persistence paid off. Within months, he hit #1 on Amazon UK's mystery, thriller, and suspense category, outselling major authors like Stephen King and Jeffrey Archer. Okay, that's incredible. By 2015, Greg had written 17 novellas, balancing writing with a full time job. Despite setbacks in 2016, including industry challenges and marketing missteps, he rebounded, securing a 25-book distribution deal with India's Juggernaut Books and earning a film adaptation shortlist for his book Murder Secret. Now, under the pen name C.T. Mitchell, he has authored 50 plus books across multiple series, embracing his niche in Kindle short reads. His guiding philosophy: write to entertain, stick to your strengths, and never go alone. Go it alone. That is incredible. So, I mean, I just learned so much in your bio. Let me just tell you one thing. I'm a writer too. I'm a real estate agent of 35 years and a writer and a blogger, and I love sharing stories. I'm more
Yeah.
true. I like to do more nonfiction but write more nonfiction. But what you said about don't go it alone and get help, I love that because I have not joined a writing community per se, and I've just kind of written, for pleasure. I've written a couple books, but just they were real estate books. So, which is what I
Yeah.
do, right? What we do. But this is so fascinating. So that was one thing I wanted to hit on. Before we go into anything, I want to know why you're writing under a pen name, and then we'll circle back to your beginning.
Sure, sure. So, as I said, part of the thing of getting started for me was to join a writing group because one of the weaknesses that I knew, having procrastinated for like 20 to 30 years about writing, was
Uh-huh.
that I needed support. And so I joined the writing group, and it had a lot of training videos in there, PDFs, the whole thing. But the guy who ran that whole group basically said you can go two ways: your real name or a pen name. If you go a pen name, nobody's going to necessarily know you. So if you're writing absolute garbage, no one's going to be coming down on you because they don't know who it is. And I kind of thought that was a good idea. Then we also talked about what type of pen names and that to have. And the name C.T. Mitchell is a little bit of an anomaly because it doesn't tell you whether it's a male or it's female. So if I went down different genres, I went down romance or something, you may not know that I was a male. And secondly, the fact that what I did do is I took my three children's names, Calvin, Taylor, and Mitchell, and put it together
Oh,
to come up with Mitchell. That's how I got that name. So that
I
was
love
the
it.
purpose behind doing it. Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. That's so
So
great. I love the story behind the name, and I love that it's your kids' names. That's even better. But that makes a lot of
yeah,
sense. I mean, I like the idea that you could be a woman, you could be a man, but no one's gonna categorize you and put you in a box. So
yeah,
okay, I discovered you on LinkedIn. We connected on LinkedIn, and I
yeah.
love LinkedIn for that. But we connected on LinkedIn, and I remember seeing, and I don't know now if it was, I've been doing this podcast now a year and a half, and I don't know if it was you when you first started writing, but I saw that you had retired from real estate and were going into it must have been an earlier one of your first posts that you were going into being an author full time and retiring from real estate. But before we get into how did you make the transition, how did you get into real estate? I liked people to hear how you got into real estate. Was it something you did out of, high school or college, or did you have multiple careers before you started real estate, and how that
Yeah,
happened?
yeah. So yeah, obviously, I'd gone to school. I graduated from that. I went to university. I studied an accounting degree. Didn't really necessarily like, fiddling around with numbers all the time. I got my first job as what they call a stock operator on the stock exchange. And back in the days when we used to have big chalkboards up the front and chalkies, as they were called, would run around and put the prices and bids. And I was an operator on the floor, and I'd be shouting out, buys and sells that I needed to comply. And that was a really great, fast-paced environment, and I enjoyed it. But I probably didn't get a lot of training there, and a few months into it, the boss came to me one day and basically said, "Don't come back." So that was the end of my stock marketing career, and I needed to do something. And this advertisement popped up in real estate, and I thought, why not give it a go? So I started way back in the dim dark ages of selling real estate, and I actually started selling land. And the purpose of telling you that kind of a story is that when you're selling land, you have to be very, very creative because you've got to picture a house on the block and you've got to describe that to the potential purchaser, get all their senses involved so that they really feel that they're building their own home there. And that was an important part. And for most of my real estate career, while I transitioned out of just selling pure land, I went and sold, a bit of commercial real estate. I did industrial, tin sheds and all that kind of stuff, as we call them here. But I did a lot of time in project selling. So I would be selling big high-rise apartments. There's a major resort here in Australia called Sanctuary Cove. It's a gated community, and I spent a number of years selling that again in that creative sense. And so the purpose of that is basically the transition towards writing was I was already in that creative kind of mode. I wasn't necessarily doing bricks and mortar. I was selling things that weren't there, so I needed to explain things very well, and I said get senses going. So that was my real estate career. I had a reasonably good career of it. I sold a bit over $400 million worth of real estate during my time. Um, I thoroughly enjoyed it. In the latter years, I got involved in corporate real estate. So I was looking, well, I was a go-to guy for one of the big franchise brands to the offices, and I basically liaise with anywhere between, I don't know, 45 up to about 83 offices at a time. So I was pretty
Wow.
busy, and I travelled a lot, and but yeah, it was exciting. But all good things got to come to an end, I suppose.
That's true. They do. So as a realtor, so let's talk a little bit about real estate, and then we'll go more into the books. But as a realtor,
Mm.
what could you give us some advice that you would give newer agents or agents that are seasoned, but are they're in a new environment now with AI and everything. So what kind of advice would you give to a seasoned agent as well as a new agent just coming into the way we work today?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. And what I see a lot with new agents is people look at real estate and think it's a very much a get rich quick scheme. They see people like yourself, they see the success, they see all the trappings that go with it, and they think they're going to transition out of their paid job into real estate. And they don't really have the funds or whatever to get started, and certainly don't have the skills at that stage to get started. So anyone who's young who comes to me, for example, I always recommend that they try and hook up with an experienced agent, somebody like yourself, become their personal assistant or their buyer's agent. I don't know what terminologies you use in America, but use that kind of approach. Get the training, do all the heavy grunt work, making the cold calls, doing the prospecting, doing all the follow ups, going out and doing the open homes, all that kind of stuff, and do that for, I don't know, 12 months, a year and a half. And what it does, it builds up their education within an area. They become a bit of an expert on how things are going in the local marketplace. They get to understand people in the public also get to see them, because typically they're either the first front face that a customer sees, or their face is on a real estate sign, and so their name starts to get out. And when it's time to branch away from their mentor, they've already got a bit of an upbringing, and they're not going so cold. Because, as you know, and you would realize way back when you started, it's a fairly difficult industry to get going in. You do need to be able to sustain yourself, and it's mentally pretty tough too, because it's everyone's in competition to each other, and there's no real thing in there. With a more seasoned agent, yeah, you definitely have got to look at now at being able to use AI, because AI is obviously another form of technology, a very fast moving form of technology. Technology has never, ever, ever been beaten. So it's no point putting your head in the sand and going, oh, I'm not going to get involved in this thing. That's what people said about electricity way back. We're not going to do that stuff. And all of a sudden, it goes on. And so unless you're an agent, and one of the big things about being an agent, which is what you do and you do so well, is that you actually brand yourself. And when you think of how the future's going, people are going to be sitting in their homes and go, well, Alexa, which is owned by Amazon, Alexa, I'm thinking about selling my house. Find me a real estate agent. And so the problem that's coming for agents is that if you're not a brand, Alexa's going to make a decision on what it knows. Who it knows, who's in the area, the brands that are sticking out, and they're going to go and recommend that person or those people, maybe a couple of people. Whereas in the old days, someone might have got on the internet, Googled, looked up a newspaper or whatever the case is, and found you. But somebody like Debbie DiMaggio has got no problem. I mean, we're talking about a brand that's already there. So Alexa's going to already know you. But the other poor agent who's out there, who's maybe seasoned, needs to really work on that brand and making sure that AI is going to work for them in the future.
So that is so interesting that you said that, because I would not have known that, but I didn't Google myself. I was on AI and I asked it a question, because I love to help seniors in their transition, helping seniors to their next chapter, and
Yeah.
I put it in AI, not Google. The old term is Google. I put it in AI, and Debbie DiMaggio came up. So
Wow.
I mean, I don't think what you just said people aren't aware of yet. Yes, I'm sure some people
Yeah.
are, but what you just said, people are not aware, because I certainly wasn't aware. I just asked it a question and my own name came up. So I don't know if it was because it was my account or what, but it's very fascinating and I think what I'm guessing, I do write a lot of blogs on that, and a lot of writing and stuff. So I think maybe it came up because of that, but I think that is so fascinating.
Well, here's the other interesting fact that you just said. I went onto AI and put in the question, who is the great real estate agent, and Debbie DiMaggio came up. What is happening now, and Google is finding, is that there is diminishing, or no, it's not great, but there is a diminishing amount of search that goes to Google. So things like Google search, Google ads over time is going to diminish right now. And this thing AI is moving so fast, 6 or 10 years time, who knows where Google's going to be. So the fact that you're already thinking about, I'll do my searches now on AI, this is where I said the world is moving towards. And, agents have got to get involved and really start to build their presence and use AI.
Absolutely. I always ask that question because when I was a younger person and there were older seasoned agents when the internet came up, when we got email and we got the internet, and I
Yeah.
remember, and they were older, and I remember I was still, I was pretty young and new in the business. So I did not want to email. I wanted someone to pick up the phone and call me. So I did not like it, but I wanted to talk to people. But I did adapt, and that was, gosh, 20 years ago or whenever,
Yeah. Yeah.
25 years ago. Anyway, so they, a lot of them were reluctant. And over the years, we've gotten so much more technology. So
Yeah.
and even though I've been in it 35 years, and clearly you've been in it a long time and you adapted, but people have to adapt. And even after 35 years, I'm rebranding. I just redid the Debbie DiMaggio website. I mean, you have to constantly reinvent and rebrand. So that's why it's
Yeah.
funny when people might think, why are you asking about new agents and seasoned agents? Because sometimes they're one and the same.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And again, you hit on a great term there, emails. In about the same period that you're talking about, I was living in Singapore and actually selling real estate in Australia from Singapore. And when I packed up and left and came back to Australia, I had a whole stack of cards, business cards. And the interesting thing was when I went to look back at those cards, only about six of them had an email address on those business cards. And so the only way I could contact them ever again was to, get on the phone. But there was no marketing. I couldn't just, flood their
Right.
inbox with an email or anything. So that's how far the world has just moved. And I think this
Crazy.
AI move, yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible. All right, we're going to go to commercial break. We'll be right back with Greg Reid of Brisbane, Australia. I love Australia. Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio, and we are here with Greg Reid. Thank you so much for getting up so early to be with us today. Let's talk a little bit more about AI before we move on, and then I want to talk about the whole launch into your book career. And are you using AI in your writing? Yeah,
Absolutely. I'm not using it to necessarily write, certainly not to write books, but
right.
I use AI as an assistance for me to do research or come up with keywords, even to the point of maybe looking at chapter headings or designs or that kind of thing. So I use AI quite heavily, and I'm trying to improve my skills. I've just bought a course about AI prompt engineering, and I think that
Wow,
what you put in is what you get out. And the
that's
old
true.
days, I would say, write me a real estate blog post and get a bit of generalized, garbage. In all honesty, but now when I tone it down, I say, write in the voice of Debbie DiMaggio. I get this expert piece of copy that comes back.
Thank you.
Well, it does. It comes back in whoever voice, and I use some of the voices of the best copywriters in the world, and you get some amazing things back now, and it's only going to improve.
Oh, so that's incredible. So you used to say, write it in the voice of this copywriter or author. That is very
Yeah,
cool. And then you hear it in their voice. I know I find it like you can, it's I was listening to a radio show once, and they were talking about plagiarism versus, how do we use AI? How do they use it in college and writing essays and papers? But I know, I mean, like you said, garbage in, garbage out, right? So I think,
Mm.
I put in the information, or I write an email, or I'm, in the car drafting something, and it's just jumbled because I'm riding and driving. And then you
Sure.
pop it in, and the same message comes out, just cleaner, and it might have a
Yes.
word or two that makes it, sound better and definitely more succinct. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was really afraid when, I think the one thing I was afraid of when I saw AI was, I was in the San Francisco airport, and I saw this machine, a robot making coffee, and I said, oh, that's taking the place of someone. And I was kind of bummed. And now fast forward, I love AI, and I've upgraded my account because I was at my listing, and I was trying to show the garden, how it could be if the garden was fenced in.
Yeah.
And it was a big flat area. And then I wanted to show a car. So I chose a Range Rover, and,
Yep.
and I wanted
No.
the fence to be a hedge. And then I wanted there a place to be a Range Rover. And then I wanted a place for the kids to play, and like a seating little patio. And so I had to upgrade it because it wasn't right. I kept asking for a single story house. They kept giving me but anyway, I did upgrade it at the time, and you can upgrade your AI account or subscription, and you do get a
Yeah.
little bit more. So
Yeah.
all right, so let's talk about CT Mitchell. Okay,
Oh,
you're in real estate, and did it overlap at the same time, or real
yeah.
estate and your writing? And how did you
Yeah.
get in it? You sounded like you went in it very organized, getting into a community. How did it all happen that you decided to do this? And it's not a little thing. I mean, 50 plus books is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I was very much like yourself. I was writing a lot of real estate blog posts, and I had my own little blog at the time, and it was doing quite well as far as getting engagement and whatever. It wasn't a monetized thing, but I just love the act of writing, and I used to say to myself, "Geez, one day I would love to write a book." And be honest, I was more down the path that you were going or are going, writing what we call non-fiction books. So writing something about real estate and how to do it. And I've written maybe half a dozen non-fiction books, one being about real estate. But when it came to 2015, I don't know, it's one of those maybe New Year's resolution things. I woke up in January and said, I'm going to write a book this year. And I said to you previously, I've been 20, 30 years procrastinating about that thought. And I knew that in order to get started, but more importantly, to stay started, I'm great at starting things and quitting 5 minutes later. I would need a support group. And I found an online support group, about 1,300 authors run by a New Zealand guy, a Kiwi guy. We had a lot of authors in there, particularly Americans in there. Some of them were doing great, seven-figure income earners of names that you've never heard of. And
Wow.
I was, super impressed with all of that. But I said it had a little bit of training things in there, but it was the community, and we had a online Facebook group, and I could go on there and basically say, I'm going to put up a murder mystery cover, and it's going to be pink with purple polka dots, and people would say, oh, no, Greg, don't do that. Don't do that. You need to be this kind of cover and whatever. So I started to learn the art of, what it was needed, and I became more observant. I would go to bookstores and I would, stand in front of the mysteries and see what was the commonality amongst it, and the size of the fonts and where the
Right.
title of the book went, or where the author name went. Again, what images were put onto the cover, those sorts of things. And over time, I built it up. I've started to build a little virtual group of people who would edit my books. I had a couple of editors in America and also here in Australia. I had cover designers who were based anywhere from Romania, again, back into the United States mostly. I would have a formatter so that when my books were uploaded as ebooks, every page just flowed without anything sticking, or a chapter didn't finish up here and the next chapter start immediately after. So it was page breaks. And that guy was based in the Ukraine. So every now
Wow.
and then I send him an email just to make sure he's okay.
Right, I know. Oh,
That's how it got started, and I was just determined. I was super focused on getting this thing up off the ground because I said it was something I just wanted to do. And I had seen other people who were doing it and doing it well, and I just made the effort. I got up as we are right now, 5 o'clock in
yep.
the morning. I'd have a bit of coffee and wake myself up. 5:30, I'd start writing for a couple of hours, and then I'd have a break, a bit more breakfast, maybe went for a walk for half an hour, and then I go and start my full time job. And then after that, finished at 5 or so in the afternoon, I'd be home, and I might do another hour or so before dinner, and probably another hour or so after dinner. And I did that at least
Wow,
6 days a week, and I did that for a year,
wow,
just to
wow.
get
That's
up and going.
that's
Yeah.
amazing discipline. Oh my gosh. And that was your first book.
So my first book was done in February. It sort of came out end of February 2015. And because I'm writing novellas, again, as I said, I base things on strength. I was in that writing group and everyone was posting, oh, I've just written 2,000 words today. I've just written 5,000 words.
Oh
I've just completed my $100,000 word book. And I used to feel like about this big because I was writing these silly little 10 to 20,000 word books. But a couple of things I learned. One of the things was that when you're an unknown person, momentum is is your friend, and the more you can get books out, and the what do you call it, reading public get to know that they can expect a book, every month, for example, then
Okay.
that's what you do, and you build it up. Too many authors get started, they write a book, it takes them, whatever, 6 months
Yeah.
to a year. And I'm not knocking that. That's fine.
No, no, not at all.
But it comes, they don't do the next one for another 6 months or 12 months, and they've forgotten. They've lost any momentum that their book, people might be madly in love with their book, but they just lose that traction. And a reader is not necessarily loyal. They just keep on pottering off and they go somewhere else. So the fact that I was writing shorties, I was putting them out about every 3 weeks, hence 17
Wow.
books in a year. Yeah.
Every 3 weeks. And so a novella is a 10 to 20,000 word book, or a
Yeah.
word book. And how many pages is that about?
10,000 is about 33, 34. 20,000 is about 65. When you
Okay.
start getting up to 30,000 words, you're about 100,000 words. Oh, sorry, 100 pages. But the importance of that is that there is a section on Kindle called Kindle Short Reads, and your books are slotted in there based on the time that it takes somebody to read it. So they start as low as 15 minutes, so it could be just one page book, all the way up to 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And it's an interesting section because there are millions of copies in there. It's quite a competitive thing. And again, over time, I've noticed big time authors like Dean Koontz, Jeffrey Deaver. These are all very big crime writers, particularly with an American base, who write major novels, would be selling millions and millions of books. While they are writing their long form novel, they pop out a couple of novellas
Wow.
just to keep the audience hooked. That on their reading, there's something still coming, that kind of thing. So it's a great area, but for me, that's about the extent of my English capabilities is to write something short.
I love it. No, I didn't know about Kindle short reads. I love that. And I didn't, when I think of a novella, I think of a Spanish, Mexico or Spanish TV show. But
Yeah.
I didn't know about Kindle short reads. That's great. And yeah, that makes perfect sense that they would write a big book and then pop in these smaller
Yeah.
ones so people
It's
don't
the same.
forget.
it is the same for you writing nonfiction. You might write a real estate book that's about 75 pages. How to market your house. Here's the
Right.
the top tips or something, and it might be 50, 60, 70 pages. Well, you can have that into Kindle short reads in
Wow.
a non-fiction sense as well. So
Well, you
um,
just added something to my list. Why did you
there you
tell me
go.
that?
There you go.
My husband's gonna be like, "Oh God, why did you give her that idea?" Now well, she doesn't sleep anyway. She'll never go to bed. I love it. So and how do you go about that? Well, tell me, how do you go about getting something on Kindle Reads? I don't even know how to do that.
Sure. Well, it's just the same process of uploading your book into the back of Amazon. Well, I don't know if you know how to do that, but it's just
No.
basically a okay. So you open up an account, KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, kdp.amazon.com. You open that account up, and from there you're able to start uploading your books. So you go in with a title. The title, particularly being an unknowns, or I would think probably more in non-fiction, you'd be wanting to use some good keywords in there. In your case, the word would be real estate and marketing and that kind of terminology. You put a great title in there. Maybe AI could come up with a great title for you.
Exactly.
You know, why not?
Right.
Then there's the ability to put a subtitle in there. You can then series it up. Your Word document that you wrote the book in, and you've now had it edited and all that kind of good stuff, you would get it converted into what they call EPUB, e-publishing. That's a particular format that Amazon wants. So again, if you haven't got an EPUB converter person, you jump onto something like Fiverr, Fiverr.com.
Mhm.
Find somebody there who will do the conversion of the book for you, and they will also do PDFs, so you can do paperbacks. You then upload it. You get the opportunity to put in 7 keywords in around your book. So again, it'll be real estate marketing, homes for sale, whatever the topic is about. You have the ability to put it into 3 categories. So it might be business and money in your case, real estate sales, real estate marketing could be another category, and whatever. Go through, upload the manuscript, upload the cover, choose where you want to distribute the book, and obviously it'll be a worldwide thing. And to get it into another section in Kindle is called Kindle Select or Kindle Unlimited. Now, Kindle Select and Kindle Unlimited is a pool of money that Mr. Bezos takes out of his super yacht fund and helped you get a couple of crumbs along the way. Now, when I started in 2015, the pool was about 11.5 million for the month.
Oh,
It is now in excess of $60 million for the month. So
wow.
what happens is that if you're in the top so many authors within a particular category, you get bonus money, $1,000 US dollars. If you're the number one person with the most page reads, it's like a bit of a lending service. People don't actually buy your book in Kindle Select. They have the opportunity to go and get maybe 10 books in a month and read them, and then they just distribute them back out. So Kindle says, okay, Amazon says, okay, we're going to pay you like a rental fee. And that's what Kindle Select does. And it's a little bit less, but for ease of numbers, let's say it's half a cent a page read. So
Okay.
if you go and get 100,000 page reads in a month, that's $500. So for somebody that's a mortgage payment, it could be a car payment, it could help with, I don't know, school funds or
Right.
putting towards a holiday or something. So that's extra bonus money that you get along the way. And I said, if you're the number one person in that particular genre for that month, your extra bonus, not only do you get all those little dribbles along the way, you also pick up a 25,000 US bonus as well.
Wow.
So It's a great little service. So you put your book in. You have the option of pricing 99 cents to $2.98. Will get you 35% or 35 cents in the dollar, which for a lot of people doesn't sound much, but I'll explain why it does. And then from 2.99 up to 9.99, I'm talking about ebooks. The payment structure is 70%. So if you've got a little ebook out there that's $5.99, let's call it $6 at 70%, that's $4.20. Let me explain. I also have traditional publishing contracts with a publisher in Britain. Nice people, uh, always there to help, but only if I ask. They don't really do a lot, and they pay me. I think it's somewhere between 15 to 20%. And when someone says to you, "Oh, Amazon only pays 35%," well, let me tell you, you're doing a lot better than Mr. Traditional, and certainly at 70%, you're doing great. So I love Amazon. A lot of people knock it, and
Right.
they're super paying for Mr. Bezos' super yacht and all the
Yeah.
supermodels that are on there. But I don't. It's the biggest market by a
Right.
country mile, and you just got to be in there, So
Right.
that's how you get started. That's how you do it. And to answer your first question, how do you get into Kindle Shorts? Well, it just becomes the size of your book, basically.
Okay.
And when you're putting in your keywords, you might put in the keyword of something like short stories or Kindle short reads. That could be one of your keywords. And Amazon goes along and finds that and says, okay, Debbie, your book, because it's, 80 pages or something like that, it needs to be in the 2 hour business and money, real estate sales category.
So
And that's
you
how it
can
works.
That's incredible. So you can really, I mean, you can take some of these blogs and almost turn it into a book. It's incredible. It's I had
Absolutely.
no I had no idea that. I mean, and the other thing is I've written a couple books and I self-published a Beauty at Any Age book and I used BookBaby to do it. But and then
Yeah.
I had someone format it, but didn't I did so it looks like you're not even having to create this hard book. You just can upload a Word doc converted
Yeah.
into the EPUB and you
Yeah.
don't even need to do all the design of a book. It's really into just a document that you upload it like we upload stuff to email all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Wow.
just send my Word document to my little mate in the Ukraine, and I tell him that I want an ebook done, and he knows that Amazon wants EPUB format. Or say I want a PDF if I'm writing a bigger book, a novel or something like that. And then they just convert it for me, and then they send the file back, and then I just upload that file into Amazon. There's there's no real need, and the fact that you just said you've got a gazillion blog posts out there, maybe you can go pick a couple, ask Mr. AI to update it because maybe you wrote them, I don't know, 3 or 4 years
Right,
ago. Something that they might be a little bit stale.
right.
Use the voice.
I love the
Uh,
voice. Yeah, and the voice.
well, I say voice as in the tone of somebody.
Right, right. Yes.
What's the big motivator guy in America? Tom. That does real estate. He's got his own real estate channel.
On the I know
Anyway,
yeah, in New
whoever
York. Yes.
he's only running a distant second to yourself. I know, but you might think that he has a decent voice in real estate, and you say
Right.
write this. Can you rewrite this post? Give it the link that's already on your website or something. Please
Okay.
update it. Anything that I've missed, and use the tone of Fred Smith from
Right.
Fred Smith Realty or something.
Oh,
And
Sirhan, Ryan Sirhan, maybe you were meaning.
yeah,
Ryan Sirhan.
Ryan, and I mean he's a great example. Use that for example.
Yeah.
So whatever, somebody that you like and think has got influence and whatever, and just see what you get back. You can mix and match. You can. Is it Tom Ferry?
Oh, Tom Ferry, he's a coach. Yes, Tom Ferry, the
Coach.
coach.
Oh, you might. I mean, he writes a lot of blog posts and videos and whatever you might say. Write this in the tone of Tom Ferry from the Tom Ferry Show. Blah blah blah. You know, whatever you want to do. I mean, you probably don't need it. It's just writing
No,
the
this
term
is
Debbie
great.
DiMaggio. Wow.
You're too kind. So so what about the cover? How do you create a cover? The design, is there a cover or is it still in a Word, or
No,
do you create
there's a
a design?
cover. There's a cover. So again, I go virtually. I would look on something like Fiverr. I mean, there's some reasonably decent people on Fiverr. You can look
Right.
at their they can look at their past works, and you know, and the covers don't have to be extraordinary. I mean, I've been to individual cover designers and been quoted, you know, $3,000-4,000 to get a cover done. But I found that there's plenty of people on Fiverr who will do a cover for you for, you know, $20, $30, something to that kind of nature, and I
Right.
give them all the prompts. I might even send them a background image because in mystery writing, it's generally a fairly dark or eerie looking image.
Right.
And so I might send them an image. I might say, I want uh, the author title at the top. I want that in green. You know, I'm just making it up.
Right.
The book title down the bottom, I need it large font. It's going to be white. Da da. I need the words "A Detective Jack Reid Mystery" written under it in smaller font. And I give them the idea, and they come back with the book. And there are also pre-made cover designers out there, and there's a great one that I use called Creative Parameter. So she's worth looking at. She does a lot of fiction, but she does a lot of non-fiction as well.
Creative
Uh,
what?
Creative
Creative.
Para, Meter, I think it is.
Okay.
Creative Parameter, and um, there's a category there for non-fiction books. You click on it, you go through, and there's already a cover and everything designed without the title and the author name, and you can buy the cover. I'll make it up. It's $60, and you just send it back to her or let her know that you want it. You know, the world's greatest real estate agent by Debbie DiMaggio. You know, and that's it. It's done.
I could sit on with you all day. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back with the ever amazing Greg Reid. Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbie DiMaggio. We are here with Greg Reid out of Brisbane, Sydney. Now, I was reading through some of my notes with you. What is a tall poppy syndrome?
It's probably a terminology that's pretty resonates in Australia. It basically means that anybody who is doing well in any area, doesn't matter what you're doing, what field you're in, or something that like nature, Australians love to tear successful people down. I think it's totally
Oh,
different in America. When you're successful in America, they try to build you up. That's the image or the idea that I get about Americans in particular, and they root for you. They go out and you know say nice things and pump you up. But in Australia, you know, they're trying to find little chinks in your armor, and
oh,
they're looking to tear you down a bit. So tall poppy syndrome's quite a big thing. Yeah, sometimes it's kind of justified. You know, there are
Right.
as you would have come across on the internet, a lot of so-called gurus who are not really gurus,
Right.
um,
Right.
and they need it knocked down. But that's what happens.
Oh, tell me about, so you mentioned that you have a book deal in England, but then you
Mm.
also are involved with India. What's your connection to India?
I ate a lot of butter chicken. No. uh, India was just a fascinating market for me because, interesting, I had dinner once with a group of people, and there was an Indian woman in there. And she said to me at the time, "Did you know that there's something like about 60 million English reading Indians in India?" And I said, "No, I didn't know that." And I went home from dinner and basically didn't sleep because I worked out I'm going to hit the Indian market. And so
Wow.
I hunted around and I found a startup. This is way back in about 2017 or something like that. The startup was called Juggernaut Books, and they were very, very smart in that they very seasoned. They were ex-Random House people. They got some seed funding, venture capital. Um, have gone on since to have the largest telco in India back them, and they distribute books mostly to mobile phones. And so, hence, books like mine, which are short, can be read by an Indian person hanging off the back of a bus on their way to work. And so,
I
it's
could totally see that.
you can see that absolutely. And so, yeah, that's. I was fortunate that the acquisition person at the company basically said to me that they would take all of my books at the time, and it was 25 of them. And
Wow.
because I had 25, they said, "We'll make you a publisher, not an author," which meant I was getting double the royalties.
Wow. That's
So I
incredible.
was being
And
paid. Um, yeah,
so did you
yes.
so did you change, so were you writing, did you change your writing? Was it still your same books, or did you change it to bring in the culture of India and the life in India?
A bit of both. So most of the books were obviously just my existing stories, and they were just in English, and we upload them onto their particular platform. Then I decided that I would have an amateur sleuth. You know those in America you have Murder She Wrote, that
Oh,
old
okay.
TV
Yes,
series,
yes.
you know,
Okay.
where you have an amateur sleuth, Jessica, whatever her name again was, that used to go in and into a town and she'd hook up with the local police and solve a murder. Well,
Uh-huh.
amateur sleuth, I decided I'd create an Indian girl in one of the towns here, and she would put her nose in between in police business and help solve the crime. So I created the Selena Sharma series, and
Okay.
I gave them catchy titles. And one of my other books was Murder at the Fate, and it was all about a person being murdered after tasting a strawberry cheesecake at a local fete. So I turned the idea and the concept into Murder by Butter Chicken for Selena Sharma, and it got number one in the category, and it was a great laugh and whatever. Then I had Murder of a Bollywood Queen, and um, a good mate of mine sells a lot of real estate to Indians here in Australia, and his name's Murray. So I had Murder of Mumbai Murray and all these sort of little things like that. It was just a fun series, and yeah, they did quite well. So yeah.
And did you have, so a big imagination, clearly. How, for, let's say, for India, how did you spend a ton of time in India, or did you just through your own research? How did you come up with knowing what you needed to know to write a good book?
Um, I just, as I said, I haven't been to India.
Oh,
It's one of those things on my yeah, bucket list to do, I suppose. I talked a lot with Juggernaut Books. In fact, I used to do online webinars and things like that for them. So-called coaching Indian authors and whatever, which was a challenge. Um, I'm a very open and kind of curious personality, so I'm really interested. So if I bump into Indians here, sometimes they can be shunned as because of their wiggling and dealing, but I'm always interested in somebody's story. So I spend a lot of time chatting to Indians. As I said, I spent a lot of time in Indian cafes eating butter chickens. Uh, because
I,
I'm a bit of a wuss when it comes to spice, so you won't catch me eating a vindaloo or anything like that. But
you
um,
already have the names of the food pretty good. Vindaloo.
oh yeah, I can recite a couple of menus back there very easily.
So that's good. So I thought you had been to India, so you were just immersing yourself into the culture in Australia, which I
Yeah,
didn't realize until I visited how international it is. It's incredible the amount of just different cultures and people who are there. It's fascinating.
yeah,
Well, I'm definitely going to ask you for your referral of the Ukrainian person. I'd love to
yeah,
give him or her
yeah,
business and
yeah.
love to do one of these. How so the Before we wrap it up, you mentioned in your bio that your one of your books was chosen to be a film, turned into a film. Which book
Mm,
is it? Give us the name so we can read the book. And
yeah.
where are you in that process?
Okay, so the what's the better word? The governing body here in Queensland, and one of the governing bodies in Australia is called the Queensland Writers Centre. I've got a very good relationship with them and the board and all that. I used to be on the board with them, but they have a program called Adaptable, which basically takes a book to film, and they run a competition. That year that I was involved, there was 350 entries Australia wide. It got shortlisted down to basically the top 25. And from there, we had the opportunity to present our story. We were coached on pitching and things like that. And I sat down with about 7 people one day. I'll be honest with you, probably 3 or 4 of them were not relevant. They were screenwriters for science fiction films, so murder mystery wasn't really their cup of tea. But I
Right.
did sit down with a couple of production houses here in Australia and a couple of film companies. Now, at the time, because it's a seasonal thing, they didn't see the benefits because I was actually pitching the book, and the book was called Murder Secret, which I've mentioned before. It also has a sister book called Breaking Point. Both of those books are available on my website. Both are available on Amazon. And I pitched the book as a lead, but because I had written another 10 short books under the name of Detective Jack Reid, I wanted to turn everything into a television series, which is also a bit of my interest for India. I've been, you know, stalking Indian film producers, trying to get a Bollywood deal going over there on that. So that's how it came about. I said on the day, nothing really eventuated. I did get a small Australian film producer come to me, sign me on a shopping deal. Supposedly take my book into Netflix and Amazon Prime. He was on a
Wow.
on a trip there. Um, Nothing came of that. I'm only taking his word that he actually went and spoke to him
Right.
about my book. But it was something I did. It was fun. It was something
Right.
that I won't necessarily pursue because it's a distraction. My
Right.
bread and butter is to write a book, sell a book. That's
Right.
you know,
And if something bigger happens, that's just icing on
yeah,
the cake. Yes.
absolutely.
So you must have, well, first of all, when is your birthday? What's your sign?
Aries.
You're an Aries. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a Cancer. I did not peg you for an Aries. Give me the curiosity. I'm just super curious, and that's why I love doing this. But what is your morning routine like? Do you have a practice in the morning? What does your morning routine look like?
Morning routine. I'm a little bit slacker than I used to be. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I typically will have about half an hour or something of waking myself up. I have a coffee. I might have a bit of toast or something to that nature. And, I have a scroll through my emails. I'm hoping that there's an email from Debbie DiMaggio there. It could be a day of excitement, could be a day of disappointment if there's not. Um, I read a bit of social media. Not a lot. I scroll through. I look to try and do a post to LinkedIn, for example. Not LinkedIn is a great thing for fiction writers, but it's a good thing to project yourself out there to either literary agents or
Right.
writing gigs, speaking gigs at festivals. Um, then from about 6:30 onwards, a little bit of a again wake up, shower, get going, and then I sit down and start my day. I spend a reasonable amount of time now still writing copy, particularly
Wow.
for real estate agents here in Australia.
Oh,
I'll write blog posts. Um, sometime I've done LinkedIn ghostwriting for some people with thought
okay.
leadership ideas and whatever. So I do that, and then I potter in around, mix that in around with writing the next book, which is generally a short book, and I will spend more time also on marketing. And I said the flavour of the minute is to up my skill set on AI. So
Right.
I'm trying to become a better prompt writer so that I get better outcomes from AI.
Well,
And that's
Greg, yeah.
yeah.
This has been incredible. We didn't even get to touch on, I meant to come back and talk about marketing and real estate and marketing your book, but we will have to do that at another time. And rest
Sure.
assured, I'll send you a good morning, a good evening every day so I can make your day. This has been so incredible. I just am so glad we met on LinkedIn, and thank you. I have so many notes. My lots of purple notes here from
Oh,
everything you shared. I listened
thank
to
you.
everything and it was so fascinating. And so it sounds like you write, but you also, people could hire you to do some ghost writing or some writing on LinkedIn and different things, blog posts and
Yeah.
real estate. So how do they get in touch with you? Because CT
Well,
Mitchell is your pen name. So how
correct.
do they get rid of get
Well,
in touch
if,
with
if
you?
they go onto LinkedIn and look for Greg Reid, I think my angle name is Who is Greg Reid? Because I could never get Greg Reid because you've got a US senator called Greg Reid, and he snapped up gregreid.com and all those good things. So I've had to go, who is Greg Reid? And after all, 60 odd years of life, I'm still trying to work that question out. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. People can DM me from there and get under the name of Greg Reid. And if they want to chat about, writing and blog posting or whatever, or they can go for my fiction site, ctmitchellbooks.com, and grab 2 free downloads on that site as well for some mystery books.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I hope we didn't ruin your mornings getting you up so early, but I really appreciate it. And I will see you soon. And I will definitely have you back on as a guest. This was wonderful. Thank you.
All right. My pleasure, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Debbie, for the opportunity, and let's catch up again real soon.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye for now.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Real Estate with host Debbie DiMaggio. Here Fridays, noon Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. Tune in to where real estate matters matter.